Welcome to the very first episode of our podcast. I wanted to create a space like this for a long time, a place for conversations people rarely have out loud. My name is Daniel Hayes, and I run Story Dose Psychology and Self-Development Stories. On the channel, we explore human stories, psychology, and growth, slowly, honestly, without shortcuts.
It's great to be here, Daniel. And I think this kind of space is rare. People are just so used to sound bites and quick motivation, but real understanding? That truly takes time and reflection.
Exactly. That's what we want to do here. Each episode will focus on one topic, dig beneath the surface, and explore it in depth. We'll reflect on what's happening in men's lives, relationships, and those hidden emotional patterns that often go unnoticed.
And the format itself encourages that, right? We're not doing rapid-fire questions or a traditional interview. It's a true dialogue, like two people sitting in a quiet room, exploring what's real and true in life, just taking our time.
Right? And to guide us, I'm lucky to have Michael Rivers with me. He's a practicing therapist with over 15 years of experience working with men, couples, and families. He brings insight from real cases, and he's here not to judge, but to illuminate the patterns we often miss.
I see my role as simply helping listeners recognize what's happening beneath the surface. The things men carry quietly, those subtle shifts in relationships, the emotional undercurrents. We'll explore all those together, honestly.
So this is what you can expect: calm, reflective conversation, deep exploration, stories, examples, and guidance, but absolutely nothing rushed, nothing superficial. Our goal is clarity, honesty, and understanding.
And maybe in the process, some relief. Because simply naming and understanding these patterns can be the first, huge step toward change.
As we start this journey, I want to share why we chose the very first topic, something I keep noticing in messages from viewers, in conversations with friends, and honestly, in my own circles. Men are carrying exhaustion silently, the kind that doesn't announce itself, doesn't collapse visibly, but slowly erodes their sense of self.
Oh, it's a subtle but incredibly powerful phenomenon, Daniel. Many men I work with don't recognize it at first. They assume it's fatigue, or stress, or just life being too busy that explains everything. But underneath, it is absolutely burnout, a quiet depletion of emotional and mental energy that affects work, relationships, and overall well-being.
I've seen it too. People appear fine from the outside, successful at work, present at home, but inside, they're barely keeping pace with themselves. That invisible weight shapes choices, reactions, even moods. I wanted to explore this first because it just touches every single part of life before we even realize it.
And that's what makes it urgent to talk about. Burnout isn't just tiredness, it's a creeping narrowing of attention, energy, and emotion. It fundamentally affects how men relate to others, how they perceive themselves, and even how they make decisions.
I'm curious, in your experience, are there early signs that a man might be experiencing this quiet burnout, even if he hasn't noticed it himself?
Yes, absolutely. There are subtle indicators. Reduced curiosity in hobbies, muted responses in conversations, or a shrinking capacity to engage emotionally are some. Sometimes it shows as just irritability, or a gradual withdrawal from things that once brought joy. And often, the man doesn't recognize these changes because they happen so incredibly gradually.
That makes sense. It's like the change is invisible until it accumulates enough to really affect relationships, work, and daily life. I think many partners notice something is off before the man himself does.
Exactly. And that's where awareness becomes crucial. Naming the phenomenon, understanding what's actually happening, is the first step toward breaking the pattern. Without recognition, it just continues quietly, shaping life in ways that are very hard to reverse.
So this episode is about recognizing that quiet burn, seeing how it shows up, and exploring ways to respond, both for men experiencing it and for those around them. Hearing what you just described, It makes me wonder, what does this quiet burnout actually look like day to day? Is it something that partners, friends, or even the men themselves can notice early on?
It's often invisible, especially at first. I had a client, Mark, who was in his late 30s, successful, engaged at work and at home. From the outside, he seemed fine. But internally, he was slowly withdrawing from activities he used to enjoy. Weekends felt like obligations, conversations became effortful, and his energy for his family and hobbies dwindled. He didn't even label it as burnout. He just thought it was being tired of life.
That's interesting. So it's not dramatic collapse, it's a kind of slow fade, almost imperceptible until it reaches a tipping point.
Exactly. The process is so gradual. Men often carry these expectations that they should handle it, never complain, always perform. This internalized pressure creates a narrow emotional range. Joy, curiosity, and enthusiasm start to shrink. Functionally, they keep things running, but the internal experience becomes totally muted.
I can imagine that. From the outside, friends or partners might think everything is fine, but there's a hidden erosion going on.
Right. I also worked with James, who experienced this over a decade. Career success, a supportive partner, everything seemed fine outwardly. But he described life as gray and tiring. He had literally stopped noticing simple pleasures, lost interest in hobbies, and rarely initiated connection with his partner. That cumulative depletion is absolutely characteristic of silent burnout.
So, in a way, it's like the emotional thermostat is slowly dropping without anyone realizing it. By the time someone notices, it has already affected relationships, work, and self-perception.
Yes. And the psychological mechanism is tied to silent endurance. Many men are conditioned to tolerate high stress without acknowledging internal signals. The mind and body continue to function outwardly, but the internal system becomes overloaded. Cognitive sharpness, motivation, and emotional responsiveness gradually diminish.
I see. And in your practice, are there particular signs that indicate this is happening before it becomes deeply entrenched?
There are a few subtle markers: disengagement from hobbies, reduced curiosity, muted responses in conversation, withdrawal from social interactions, and persistent fatigue. Often, the man interprets these changes as normal life stress rather than a deeper issue. Recognition is the crucial first step. Noticing the pattern before it solidifies allows for intervention and gradual restoration of energy and connection.
It seems like awareness is key, both for the men themselves and for the people around them. Understanding that it's burnout, not disinterest or laziness, changes the way we respond.
Absolutely. Naming the experience and seeing its manifestations is the foundation for regaining balance. From there, it becomes possible to address it without shame, rebuild emotional presence, and restore meaningful connections.
Hearing about burnout in men makes me wonder how it shows up in relationships. A man might still be doing everything right, showing up at home, helping with tasks, but emotionally, something's missing. How can partners recognize the difference between indifference and burnout?
It often shows as subtle withdrawal. Take Tom, for example. He was attentive to his family's needs, punctual, reliable, outwardly everything was fine. But he had stopped sharing thoughts, initiating conversation, or laughing at familiar jokes. His partner felt the distance, interpreting it as disinterest. In reality, Tom's emotional energy was so depleted, he was conserving it just to function.
So the withdrawal isn't intentional. It's like a protective mechanism, but it gets misread by the people closest to him.
Exactly. Over time, that misreading can create a feedback loop. The partner withdraws emotionally in response, frustration builds, and both people feel profoundly misunderstood. Men often avoid expressing fatigue or emotional strain because of cultural expectations around strength and endurance, which unintentionally amplifies relational tension.
It's fascinating how the very strategies men use to cope, endurance, self-sufficiency, internalization, can backfire in relationships. They protect themselves, but at a huge cost to connection.
Another client, Adrian, experienced this for years. His weekends became all about logistics and routines, not shared joy. His partner interpreted the emotional absence as a lack of care. Only when Adrian started recognizing his own quiet burnout could he begin restoring presence and engagement in the relationship.
So, it's less about not caring and more about lacking the capacity to connect the way he used to. That makes it clearer why partners might misread the signals.
Yes, and recognizing that difference is crucial. Early signs, muted curiosity, lower initiative, reduced emotional responsiveness, are indicators that something deeper is happening. Once couples understand this, they can respond with compassion rather than frustration, and begin rebuilding the connection gradually.
I see. It's like shining a light on what's been happening subtly. Awareness allows both sides to react with understanding, instead of misinterpreting each other's behavior.
Right. And the key takeaway is that burnout is not a failure or a lack of love. It's a system warning. When couples approach it with that mindset, they can navigate it together, rather than letting it quietly erode intimacy.
Listening to these examples, I'm wondering if someone suspects they or someone close to them is experiencing this quiet burnout, what are the subtle signs to look for?
There are several indicators. One is withdrawal, not dramatic absence, but subtle disengagement from conversations, hobbies, or routines that once brought joy. Another is reduced curiosity or interest in activities that previously excited them. You may also notice fatigue, irritability, or a sense of emotional flatness.
So, these signs can appear so gradually. That must make it easy to overlook or misinterpret.
Exactly. And another key point, changes in relationship patterns. A man may stop initiating connection or sharing feelings. Small gestures that once signaled care might fade. These aren't signs of indifference, but of depleted emotional resources. They are survival mechanisms.
That resonates. I've noticed in friends, or even in stories from viewers, partners sensing something is off before the man himself fully realizes it.
Yes, recognizing it early matters. Once noticed, it's important to address burnout compassionately. That might mean creating space for rest, talking openly about fatigue, or adjusting expectations at work or home. Recovery isn't instant, but small steps and awareness make a significant difference.
It sounds like the first action is simply acknowledging what's happening, without shame or judgment. That awareness alone can start shifting patterns.
Exactly. Awareness and honest conversation are the foundation. From there, men can regain energy, reconnect emotionally, and partners can respond with understanding instead of frustration.
It's empowering to realize that burnout isn't permanent. It's a signal, a call to adjust, reflect, and reconnect with oneself and others.
Right. And by observing these signals early and responding with care, you can prevent subtle withdrawal from becoming entrenched patterns, restoring balance in life and relationships.
As we wrap up today's conversation, I keep coming back to the idea that burnout in men often goes unnoticed, but its effects ripple through every part of life: work, friendships, and especially relationships. Simply recognizing it is the first step toward change.
And acknowledging it without shame is essential. Burnout is not weakness or failure, it's a signal that the system needs attention. By noticing subtle changes, talking openly, and creating space for rest and reflection, men can gradually restore emotional energy and reconnect with those around them.
I think what's powerful here is that awareness alone can shift the dynamic. Just understanding that withdrawal or muted engagement is not disinterest can transform how partners respond and how men relate to themselves.
Exactly. Small steps, observing, reflecting, communicating, can prevent quiet burnout from becoming entrenched. Change doesn't happen overnight, but every moment of attention matters.
If this conversation resonated with you, we'd love for you to stay part of the journey. Subscribe to the channel to catch future episodes. and share your thoughts or experiences in the comments. Hearing your perspective helps us understand the full picture, and it may help someone else recognize what's happening in their own life.
Yes, sharing experiences and reflections creates community. You're definitely not alone in noticing these patterns, and your awareness is a first step toward change.
Thank you for joining us today. Take a moment to reflect on what we discussed. Notice the signals in your own life or relationships. And remember, quiet burnout is a message, not a verdict.